Catherine the Great, Empress of Russia, lover of luxury and horses, was so promiscuous that she died while having intercourse with a stallion. Or maybe she wasn't. In this episode, we gonna talk about the real Catherine the Great, and see if there's any truth to this shocking claim. The first thing we need to look at here is the source of the rumor, and there are two likely candidates. The first is her political enemies. We can tell this because the rumor served their interests well. You see, Catherine had many of them. The most prominent were the Swedish and English courts. They were mad at Catherine for annexing Swedish Ingria and threatening British commercial interests in Russia. Therefore, it would serve their interests to destabilize her regime by besmirching her name. Catherine ruled for over 30 years, and any effective attack on her would have to do more than just damage her reputation. It would have to be something that undermined her authority as a ruler. So a rumor about her being unfit to rule due to some kind of mental instability or illness might have worked. But rumors about her sexual activity would have been perfect. This way they could paint her as too immoral and debauched to effectively rule. If people believed these rumors, they might have thought twice about following her lead. And remember, back then, it was easier to spread rumors about someone's private life than slander them regarding their policies. Policies. You know why? Because Catherine was good at that. The second candidate is misogyny. And here I don't mean the general misogyny of the time, because that's a given. I mean misogyny specifically directed at Catherine. Why? Well, because she did something no woman was supposed to do, namely break the rules of gender hierarchy. Back in the 18th century, a woman's place was in the home. She couldn't own property, vote, run for office, or even speak in public. But Catherine broke all those barriers. First, she got married to Grand Duke Peter of Russia, mostly because he needed an heir. Second, she deposed him and ruled the country on her own. Third, she was smart enough to take credit for defeating the Swedes and bringing peace to the Russian people. And fourth, she gave birth to an heir. So let's begin at the beginning. Catherine was born Sophie Frederica August von Anhalt-Zerbstone, May 2, 1729. Her father was a minor German prince, and his daughter was destined to be nothing more than a pawn in a game of geopolitical chess. That is exactly what happened in 1745 when Grand Duke Peter of Russia asked for her hand in marriage. You see, his first wife, Catherine Skavronska, had failed to bear him a legitimate child, and he wanted a new wife who could do that for him. Plus, their union would cement an alliance between Russia and Germany. As far as Catherine was concerned, she didn't really have a choice. Her family knew that saying no to the offer would be tantamount to signing their own death warrants. So at the age of 16, Catherine left Germany with a small retinue and arrived in St. Petersburg, Russia, in August 1745. Her new husband was everything a woman could dislike in a man. Immature, obnoxious, ill-tempered, and easily bored. For instance, when Catherine entered his bedroom to consummate the marriage, she found him playing with a toy boat. On another occasion, he pulled her out of bed while she was reading a book. He kept laughing and screaming, "Ah, you silly goose. You cannot read while lying down." She later wrote that she hated him for his childishness. Still, she bore him 2 children, Paul and Anna, both of whom were eligible heirs to the throne. But Peter was never satisfied with this arrangement. He constantly cheated on Catherine and humiliated her. When he returned from a trip to Western Europe, he brought along 2 young ladies named Anna and Wilhelmina, whom he paraded around court as his new favorites. His behavior showed Catherine exactly what type of ruler she was dealing with: irresponsible and capricious. So she spent her days learning Russian, mastering the language, literature, and customs. She also studied law, philosophy, and history, taking notes from the best teachers available. Furthermore, she developed a close relationship with Bishop Hillier, who tutored her in Orthodox Christianity. And in 1751, she converted to the faith and took the name Catherine Alexei. Now, not only was Catherine learning how to rule Russia, but she was also laying the groundwork for a future coup. You see, she befriended several influential people at court, like Razumovsky, Vorontsov, and Shuvalov, who would help her orchestrate the deposition of Peter III. In 1761, Empress Elizabeth of Russia died without any legitimate heirs. Since her nephew Peter was too young to rule, the nobles invited Catherine to take over as empress. At first, she tried to play the role of a figurehead, but it quickly became apparent that Peter wasn't up to the job. He continued his meaningless trips to Berlin, leaving the affairs of the state in total disarray. Meanwhile, Catherine gained more and more power, much to the chagrin of Peter, who finally realized what was happening. So he hatched a plan to arrest his wife and send her away. However, Catherine got wind of it and acted first. With the help of her friends, she seized key parts of the government and imprisoned Peter. After deposing him, she crowned herself Empress of all Russia. Shocked by this sudden turn of events, the European courts went into overdrive and started spreading rumors about Catherine's rise to power. Some claimed that Catherine poisoned Empress Elizabeth so she could inherit the throne. Others said she killed Peter III, though nobody knows why. And others alleged that she slept with half the men in St. Petersburg, including her own brother. All of these stories were false and politically motivated. However, they were very effective. For instance, the English ambassador to Sweden wrote, "She has such a violent desire of being thought the most beautiful woman in Europe that she will leave no opportunity to advance her design." Obviously, this dude didn't have a lot else to do. Now, before we continue, a word from our sponsor. Let's get back to the topic at hand. One of the wildest rumors about Catherine's sex life alleges that she rode a horse like a Trojan and died mid-coitus. The story goes that she was riding a horse in the courtyard of Winter Palace. When a groom approached her, Catherine, overcome by lust, immediately jumped onto the animal and began having intercourse with the groom. However, the horse reared up, tossed her off, and crushed her to death. Now, where does this come from? Well, it comes from one single source, John George Zimmerman's book, History of Russia. To be fair, he wrote it during the Crimean War, a time when pro-Russian sentiment was high in England. Therefore, it made sense to publish a book that praised the glorious Russian Empire. However, Zimmerman had a little problem. He needed to explain how a woman could seize power in a male-dominated society. His answer was simple. Catherine was promiscuous, sleeping with every man in sight, including a black man and her own brother. So the story of her dying on a horse isn't just false, it's also racist and homophobic. Additionally, the rumor doesn't make any sense because Catherine lived a long and healthy life. She died on November 17, 1796, at the age of 67, primarily due to complications arising from smallpox. During her 34-year reign, Catherine embarked on an ambitious program of reforms. She reorganized the legal system, abolished torture, and championed female education. Moreover, she amassed an impressive collection of art and artifacts, which formed the basis of the Hermitage Museum. Under her guidance, Russia became a cultural hub, attracting leading Enlightenment intellectuals such as Voltaire, Diderot, and D'Alembert. Catherine corresponded with them, and they, in turn, celebrated her as a champion of reason and progress. Although her relationship with Voltaire was somewhat complicated, she admired him as the greatest living philosopher. When Voltaire learned about her plans to establish a free public school system, he expressed his delight. In a letter to Catherine, he declared, "You are the first woman who has undertaken to enlighten her people. Men will come to think us as gods when they see that the Empress of Russia teaches her subjects to read." Similarly, Denis Diderot dedicated a utopian novel to her called The Supplication of the Women of the Third Estate. In it, he imagined a world where women enjoyed the same rights as men. Furthermore, Catherine invited the famous Swiss educator Johann Heinrich Pestalozzi to Russia to reform education. Likewise, she supported the talented artist and inventor Leonardo da Vinci, paying him a handsome salary to live in St. Petersburg and work on his projects. In terms of territorial expansion, Catherine's reign marked a significant milestone. She acquired vast lands, including Crimea, which provided Russia with access to the Black Sea. During her travels throughout Russia, she noted the dilapidated condition of the roads and the lack of communication infrastructure. Realizing the importance of efficient transportation, she initiated a massive project to build new highways connecting major cities. This network facilitated not only the movement of goods and people, but also played a vital role in suppressing major uprisings like Pugachev's rebellion. As far as her overall legacy is concerned, we should keep in mind that she ascended to the throne during a period when women were excluded from positions of power. Her remarkable achievements demonstrate that she possessed exceptional political acumen, resilience, and a clear vision for her empire. Despite facing opposition and skepticism, she successfully navigated complex European politics, forming strategic alliances and expanding Russian influence on the international stage. Catherine's contributions to law reform, education, and culture left a lasting impact on Russia. Her efforts to abolish, torture, and promote Enlightenment ideals were progressive for their time and reflected her commitment to justice and intellectual advancement. To wrap this up, the scandal that surrounds Catherine the Great serves as a reminder of the challenges faced by women in positions of power throughout history. Through her story, we can examine how misogyny and sexism have often been used as tools to undermine and discredit female leaders. By separating fact from fiction, we can gain a deeper understanding of Catherine's life, achievements, and the enduring struggles for gender equality. Alright everyone, that's it for this episode. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, stay happy and healthy.